Welcome back to the United Pubcast. About 12 hours later for a bit of I don't know if the second match review or not, but a bit of a therapy session. I think a bit of a counselling session. So if you do need a little bit of a pick me up and a bit of therapy, please do leave a like on the video. That'll cheer us up after what was a very tough Thursday here in Sydney. Obviously, a lot of the people in the UK will be waking up to Thursday. They had to sleep on that. We haven't had to sleep on it yet. But Vin, talk to me about your Thursday because Manchester United crashed back to reality.
Uh, I wouldn't call it as a crash back to reality, and I wouldn't even put that as strong as most of the United fans out there really ridiculing the team and the club for losing the game. Yes, it always hurts to lose a game in the final few minutes, but when I look at it, it's something. Crystal Palace away has always been a tough game. We all remember how we scored, how we took the 3 points. Nemanja Matic's screamer towards the end of the game. It's always been a tough place to go, and to nick points from there, I know just one, but we would have loved three, right? And we were close to getting three. That's why it hurts more. Uh, but crash is a more negative word because yeah, we've been a bit ineffective in certain areas of the play today, and we weren't completely in control during most of the half, most of the second half. But when I look at it, it's more like this was going to happen. Like, as we were talking earlier, this was always going to happen. We are going to lose points. We are going to drop points. We're going to lose games. Other teams are also going to do that. It's just, yeah, it just sucks that we lost it. We lost 2 points really at the back end of the game. But yeah, that's football.
Yeah, no, look, I use that term and I know exactly what you mean. I use the term crash back to reality. Obviously, I'm probably, as a lot of people know, one of the more positive fans. And even to me, it did feel like a crash. But yes, you're right. In regards to the reaction of the fan base on Twitter has been sadly not sort of unsurprising. I think we kind of do expect it. But still, when you do see it, you think, oh my God, what is happening? So I do want to have a bit of a chat about that reaction and how the reaction has come about in regards to the positives that Eric TEN HAG has brought, because ultimately last season we probably would have taken a draw at Crystal Palace, or the last couple of seasons. Ultimately now we draw at Crystal Palace. It's an absolute disaster. So we'll have a talk a little bit about the reaction, then we'll just sort of bounce off at each other's ideas and everyone in the comments. But I will say good day to some people. George here. Good day, mate. How's everyone's opinions after 10 hours? Still the same or worse? I think mine's the same, but mine probably wasn't too bad at the time. So it'll be interesting to see gauge the other people. Rob, picking you up here, Vin, you did mention a few losses there. We did actually draw the match, but I 100% agree. Mike, good to see you. Sully as well. Hope the little one is doing well, Sully. And Rob as well. Just curious why so many confident have been Arsenal away after the Crystal Palace result. Look, on that one, I'm confident we'll get into Arsenal a little bit, but just on that, my confidence is there for the Arsenal match. Now, ultimately, Arsenal could beat us. Arsenal could beat us with Casemiro. We could lose with Casemiro. We can beat them without Casemiro, as we did a couple of months ago at Old Trafford. McTominay and Eriksen was starting in midfield. We beat Arsenal, and we deserved to win that match. I know Arsenal played well, but we were deserved winners. Ultimately, if you go through that team at the back, okay, who's the front three for Arsenal? You've got Martinelli on the left-hand side, Wan-Bissaka. Tough game. Either can come out on top. I'm backing Wan-Bissaka at the moment. He's a Man United player. Who's through the middle? We've got Varane and Martinez. Who they got through the middle? You'd say Nketiah. Okay, well, we're good there. On the left-hand side, okay, Saka, Luke Shaw, the same as the other side. Okay, good battle. Who has a better game? Let's hope it's Luke Shaw. They'll hope it's Saka. Now that we've like Casemiro midfield, maybe they have the edge in midfield, of course, but also at the other end of the pitch, if Martial, Rashford, and Anthony are firing, you back them on their day to get a goal against Arsenal. Now they'll be having the same conversations towards us, thinking, yeah, we can exploit here or there, but it's not. We beat Manchester City. And yes, I know Arsenal are above Manchester City on the table. I fully sort of accept that. But ultimately, if it's a cup final tomorrow, Arsenal deserve to be where they are, 100%. But they're not this sort of unstoppable force. They're Arsenal, for God's sake. They're having a good season, fair play to them. And they're very well likely go on to win the league. But this is not prime Barcelona or prime Real Madrid. And we're not Man United of 2-3 years ago. We're Man United of 2023. And that is bloody good. It's 9 wins in a row, remember?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where most of the fan base they are a bit more. They're having this knee-jerk reaction on losing 2 points against Palace. And again, as Rob put up, why are we so confident? I say, like, why can't we? Right? As you said, City is not City is not up to their 100% mark, but we beat them. Arsenal, they are at the top because they didn't play City twice. I know I'm not being a bit logical right now, but if they had played City,
Yeah.
I'm quite sure there will be 2 losses in there, and probably the points table would have been looking at or painting a different picture. I say the only edge Arsenal got over us is in the midfield, and that's because both Odegaard and Thomas Partey, they are in a really good patch right now. But again, as our players, sometimes they do have bad days. Arsenal players or any football player in the world can have bad day as well. And I'm just keeping my fingers crossed it's on Sunday. And I don't see us losing at the Emirates. Yes, they are consistently playing well. They are picking 3 points. The whole 11 players are, and plus the substitutes and the manager, everybody is in a great carrying a great momentum of what has happened. But I am not so what I would say. I'm not so afraid of this Arsenal team. It's going to be a closely contested football game. It's not going to be a runaway win. It's not going to happen what happened a few years ago. And yeah, United, we are learning from our mistakes. We are very much in towards moving in the right path, even though the result didn't go as expected this morning for a lot of them. But yeah, I would have taken a single point away win or an away draw against Crystal Palace before the game started, because
Look,
that's how
could you
difficult
take
the
them
place was.
before Manchester City, but forget the Arsenal match, before Manchester City, if you said Manchester City and Crystal Palace, you're going to get 4 points, but the draw is going to come against Manchester City and the win's going to come against Crystal Palace, you think, okay, yeah, you take that, you take a draw against Manchester City and you take the 4 points. Ultimately, we've got the 4 points. The win came in the unexpected game that was still sort of on the high of that, celebrating that. It's life, yes. Sometimes you do drop points. Manchester United, I've seen title winning teams for Man United drop points and lose at far worse places than Palace, and people need to sort of prepare themselves. We might not get as bad as Brentford at the early season where we got slapped 4-0. But we're going to have far worse results than drawing at Crystal Palace. We're going to get knocked out of tournaments this year. And there's going to be disaster. It's going to get a hell of a lot worse at times this season, but you also have to remember it's going to get a lot better. I still think we potentially win the League Cup, and think of the emotion that will sort of bring. So it's going to be an up and down ride. I think that's what we signed up for when Eric Ten Hag came in. It's not going to be a smooth sailing. And ultimately, it has, while there has been a lot of drama, in regards to results, there has been pretty smooth sailing compared to what it has been in previous managers. So just in regards to that reaction, because I want to get into sort of looking ahead to the Arsenal match and how we fix the issue of no Casemiro. Just on that reaction, now, yes, we understand the fan base on Twitter and how it reacts, and okay, it is what it is. But ultimately, can we take some kind of positives in it in regards to here we are? We're both alluded to this as being a loss. It's a draw. Now, we both sort of, we're not throwing our toys out of the pram, but here we are. We lost 1-0 at Palace. No, we didn't. We did get a point, but the reaction is sort of off the back of what Eric Ten Hag has brought. Like, he's brought that expectation. As I said, if this is under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or Jose Mourinho or Ralph Rangnick, it would have been another day at the office. Oh, God, 1-1 away at Palace. Jeez, okay, who's up next? And it would have just been business as usual. Suddenly we have a 1-0 draw against Crystal Palace and shit hits the fan. Now, I don't think it should, but ultimately it has. But that is off the back, in my opinion, of the standards and the results Eric Ten Hag has set.
Yes, I completely agree to that. Eric Ten Hag is a magician in disguise. Credit where it's due, right? How bad we were last season, and to compare, especially the way we are playing and the results we are notching up, it's actually making people dream. And it's always good to dream, right? So people who are right now really irritated with us dropping 2 points, there are just two kinds, right? One who are passionate, who are currently going through the same momentum United were going, who wanted United to win every other game and put some smile and trophies back into the United cabinet. They are passionate, and I completely agree. They have set, or probably the way Eric Ten Hag has worked with the United team, he has set that benchmark that anything less than 3 points feels like a loss. And I'm just amazed the way he had made all of us fans feel like that, especially after the initial starting debacle at the start of the season. And then there is the other half of the fans who are always, they just wanted a knee-jerk reaction, always ridiculing, just putting out tweets just for clickbait reactions, and just to, kind of influence the crowd in the wrong way, and bring some kind of a defensive, or probably a demotivating mentality towards the fans in the club. But for the first half of the fans, what I say is, hang in there. The good times are going to come really soon, especially we have to stick by the manager, and no one's blaming the manager, of course. And we have to stick by the manager. We have to stick by the club and the players. The players are going to learn.
Listen to what you're saying, Vin. Listen to what you're saying. It sounds like we've just been battered 5-0. Like, well, we've got to stick together. We've got to stick behind the manager. But like, I fully understand where you're coming from, and you're right. And look, everyone has a right to be very frustrated this morning in terms of we are going for title now. Are we going to win the title? Obviously not. But that is the ambition. And when you do drop points, that does bring a huge frustration. I was very close to throwing the TV out the front window when that free kick went in off the bar. I understand the frustration. But when you communicate with other Reds, Scott McTominay, the abuse he got today, he was blamed. I saw big accounts on Twitter, accounts with over 300,000 followers, blaming McTominay for Casemiro's yellow card. I'm just thinking, look, I just don't get. Now, yes, I do defend Scott McTominay, but you can't blame him. And I don't even blame Casemiro. It's one of those things. Play went past him, you decide to bring him down. But in terms of when big accounts do that, where they have great influence, well, then just the average person, oh, yeah, okay, well, McTominay was at fault. We're sort of pinning the blame on him. I'm thinking, no, it is a collective. Yes, individuals make mistakes at times. But on another day, if the referee did their job, Scott McTominay could have been the match winner, settling it in for 2-0 when he sort of would have slided past the goalkeeper. So it is one of those. But on that McTominay-Casemiro discussion, we'll get into a little bit of football discussion. Actually, George just has one comment here before we get into the football discussion. George, the Twitter fan base already thinking we'll get 100 points in the season. This season is not affecting me. Maybe in year 2 or year 3, it may concern me a bit in terms of progression. Post-X managers, look, I completely agree. We forget how soon we are into this. I hate using the word journey, but that's what the word is. So how far we have so far to go, and I'm surprised. Look, this season, what were the tips? Probably tipped to finish 6th or 7th, maybe. I maybe had us in around potentially challenging for the top 4, but a lot of people had us well outside the top 4. So, and look, there's still a possibility we might not make the top 4. Who knows how the second half of the season will play out? But there's also a very good chance we do make it, and make it with a potential trophy. So on McTominay and Casemiro, Vin, and get everyone's thoughts in the live chat as we look ahead to Arsenal. Casemiro is out. It is what it is. We can beat Arsenal with Casemiro. We can beat Arsenal without him. We can also lose with him. It's one of those things. Okay, he's not invincible. It's one of those things. So Casemiro is not going to be there. So that hole does need filling. Is there a change in shape? A lot of people saying throw Lisandro Martinez in there. I don't see that happening. Do you throw the old combination of McFred and sort of Eriksen and Bruno on the right? Do you just play one of Fred and McTominay next to Eriksen and keep Bruno in the middle and Anthony on the right? Just our opinions will change. But Chris here saying Fred and Eriksen in the middle, which shows a very likely possibility. Just what are your current thoughts in regards to what we should be doing or what Eric should be doing?
So the last big game we played against City, which was a week ago, it was Fred who started, right? And of course, we were all questioning that decision. I was questioning that decision initially, but then foot in my mouth after that wonderful game. So Fred has already positioned himself as a big game player, right? So that's one of the things which probably tips the balance towards him in starting the game. Especially, we need to bring that dynamic abilities to the pitch, and I think Fred would do a better job. I wouldn't say a much better job, but again, it's Arsenal versus United, right? We always love some tackles flying in, some passionate tackles and passionate defending, and that's where I see McTominay going. But again, games are just not won on how much passion you show. So from a tactical point of view, I think it's going to be Fred and Eriksen. I agree with Chris, and probably most of them. I'm not reading the comments, but yeah, that's going to be how it starts, and probably McTominay is going to come in probably for a second half cameo, and probably he might score as a winner. What he kind of really tried getting one today. So yeah, that's going to be my midfield for the game against Arsenal on Sunday.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. At the moment, I'm under the assumption that Bruno will play on the right. I think it'll be the same approach as Manchester City, and that puts. Now, I would potentially play Anthony, but I'm under the assumption it will be Bruno. So if that is the case, I just think looking at numbers, for me, it's Fred and McTominay next to each other with Ericsson at number 10. Now, some people might have Ericsson next to McTominay, and then you throw Fred in the number 10 with more of a pressing issues, maybe get close to Thomas Partey potentially. So I could see a scenario where Fred is the actual number 10, which sounds crazy, but from a defensive side of things, I think that might actually be the beneficiary. And I think when we did beat Arsenal at Old Trafford with Ericsson and McTominay, Ericsson was kind of the deep line playmaker, and it's why McTominay looked quite good, because McTominay was able to burst forward a little bit, and Ericsson was the one doing the playmaking. So the dynamic will be very interesting there. But yeah, I would go Anthony, but it's off the back of a disappointing result. Eric Ten Hag might have to change things. I want to get into the strikers discussion because there was a debut about Beckham, so we'll get into all that and what that means for. So maybe just comment here. Well, first of all, Emad, good to see you. How are we? As good as you can imagine. But I fully agree here. McTominay masterclass incoming. That makes me feel better, Emad. Thank you. Sully, Fred and McTominay. Yeah, look, I think that is the case. And look, we've won big games with them in midfield before. Just look at PSG. Now, we used to beat Manchester City with them, but just look at that night in Paris. We won that 3-1 with Andreas Pereira, Fred, and McTominay in midfield. So I don't think it's the end of the world. Yes, I prefer Casemiro, but we'll still show up and we're still Man United going to Arsenal. We can get the job done. But just a comment here from Rob. We'll do their stay here. Do you think Sancho should be fast-tracked back, at least to the bench? My short answer to that, yes, the bench. There's far too many people on the bench. I'm old school. I think there should be 5 on the bench. Now, we've got like 15 on the bench, however many it is. So I think, yes, there's room for him on the bench, especially when you look how many don't get used. I would try him on the bench. Now, ultimately, he's in a unique situation. We're not fully aware of his circumstances. But just your thoughts on Jadon Sancho now that he's sort of, let's say, returned to training. Are you throwing him in, sort of getting him involved in this Arsenal match, whether it be from the bench or start?
How long he's been back to training? Probably less than a week.
Yeah. Well, sounds like a couple of days. Yeah.
So I would probably disagree with. I wouldn't say disagree with Rob, but I kind of don't think he should be fast tracked to the bench. I know we are short of what I would say a flamboyant playing around the wing, but I wouldn't rush him to the bench. He's a young guy. He's a young kid who actually took time off work. Not many of us can do, and he was going through some issues. Don't really need to know what is it all about. But for us to then bring him back to a very high pressure game, and that to away, I think it may or may not work in one way or the other, and I wouldn't want to rush him. I'll probably.
Will we be? Look, I completely agree. But just on that train of thought, will we maybe not Jadon Sancho personally, but will Eric Ten Hag be kind of forced into a big decision there in regards to the situation in midfield and Wout Weghorst? I thought, okay, 6 out of 10. He could have had a goal and we were saying dream debut, and then our opinion of his performance would drastically have changed if that goal went in. So it's one of those things. But ultimately, you compare that performance. Now, the whole team was a little bit off, so you're not pinning this on Wout Weghorst or Anthony Martial not being there. But I'll get your thoughts because you're not number one on Anthony Martial's fan club list, so quite critical of the Frenchman. But there's a drastic change. Now, this is one off. We might play brilliant football next week under Weghorst, but there was a drastic change in the way Anthony Martial links up the play in Weghorst. We obviously played a very different sort of style of football. Now, yes, the whole team was off, but there was a sort of definite change through that number 9 position. So off the back of that, the biggest criticism, Anthony Martial, okay, throw him back in. It didn't work for Weghorst. Okay, throw your number 9 back in against Arsenal. He might not be there. Who knows? He's probably on the injury table. So could he be forced into a situation where Martial's not there? Or Weghorst maybe doesn't get the start. Maybe he's a bit more of an impact sub. Suddenly your left winger and Marcus Rashford has to play through the middle. You've got Bruno on the right already. Who do you play on the left? Now, yes, obviously the answer should be Garnacho or Anthony could go over there. So Eric Ten Hag will find situations around it. But ultimately, there could be a situation, maybe not specifically for this one in terms of the big game, but Jadon Sancho will have to be thrown in eventually. We can't just, yes, we do need to take his time and go through whatever he's going through, but if he's back at work, get to work.
Yeah, probably, as you say, Ten Hag might be forced to make any of those decisions. And I see Rob asking, what's with Tony injured? I don't see any news about it. But yeah, in case if things doesn't work sometime, as I said, sometimes people flourish more when they are going through some pressure. But again, it's all Sancho is the best person to make the call, and I'm quite sure Ten Hag would be, and the management will be checking all those before putting him on to the bench or onto the starting lineup. Or you never know. He'll be throwing a curveball saying like, "Oh, there you go, Sancho. Go and get your start and go and win some games. You've been that you haven't been doing for a while, and you never know that might be the deciding factor or the X factor for United on Sunday. But yes, I'm not a big fan on the Anthony Martial fan club because I'm still waiting for the real Anthony Martial to stand up. And regarding how we played against Weghorst, yeah, it was okay for a guy who's been with United for less than a week and with less training sessions because of back-to-back games. We didn't really play that bad with him. I observed a lot many crosses getting into the box, and also his hold-up play for during a couple
well,
of.
look, I thought he was fine. It was one of those. As I said, we'll have a far
Like,
different discussion if that header goes in under the bar with what a brilliant display, target man, 9 out of 10 performance, match-winning goal. Ultimately, that's not the case. It's one of those, when you do have that play, you do want to see you play to those strengths a little bit more. It was when Luke Shaw got the ball, he said, just whip it in there. Whipped it in, got his head to it. You think, well, do that a little bit more. And ultimately, maybe Aaron Wan-Bissaka, that maybe doesn't suit his game and maybe a little bit lopsided when he plays. And look, that's not a criticism. Wan-Bissaka, I think he's close to our man of the match this morning. So just in terms of playing to the strengths, maybe, we'll take some time to get him used to. That's the unfortunate thing about a loan. He's not the long-term answer. That's where Manchester United do need to address that striking issue with a bit of heavy investment. But before we sort of start to wrap up on one or two other topics, is there anything from the match or this morning you do want to sort of touch on or any talking points? Obviously, Lisandro Martinez came back in. Do you think he keeps his spot against Arsenal, or do you think it's one of those ones where a lot of people are saying, well, hang on, we won with Luke Shaw at the back. Let's throw Luke Shaw back in and Malacia on the left. I can't see that happening with Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side. I think it will be Luke Shaw against Saka. But Lisandro Martinez, is he back in the team for good now?
I was a bit anxious when he stepped away because of the early. I mean, there was an early injury scare, right? Like where he had to strap a bandage, and I was like, oh no, not again. But I think he still starts. I mean, the free kick, the goal we conceded was something. It's a. Yeah, at least we didn't concede a free goal. It was a beautiful goal. But defensively we were okay. He did pretty well against the Crystal Palace defense. Of course, we were not really active. We switched off in the second half. But I think against a match against Arsenal, a high pressure match, a high profile match, I think Lisandro Martinez should start the game. And I wouldn't switch Malacia as the left back because as you said, Saka needs a much improved and a much experienced a position on the left back, and I think Luke Shaw would do a better job than Malacia. No offense to Malacia, though I love him.
I think it's one of those. As I said, you take that free kick. It was obviously a brilliant free kick, fair play to him. But you take that out, and that's our strongest back four this morning. You'd say, that especially defensively, with Wan-Bissaka, you say Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martinez, Luke Shaw, and we're saying great clean sheet away from home midweek in the Premier League. And ultimately, a free kick has gone. He was saying, we've conceded a goal. What's happened with this defence? So ultimately, I think we do need to take a step back and realise ultimately is actually, two very good saves from David De Gea, but ultimately on the balance of things, it was quite a good defensive performance, and I think the back four actually played quite well. Now, ultimately, on another day, those two balls go into the top corner and we lose 3-1, and we're saying it was a disaster. Those are the fine margins that we do live in when we watch football. But, I think that back four potentially stays the same, and obviously, but it will be interesting. A lot of people are shouting for Martinez in number 6. I just can't see it, and I don't think I would agree with it. Now, Ten Hag could throw him in and it could work, and what a brilliant sort of tactician that would be. I just personally don't see it. I think he's better suited at the back, and I do think we need his energy there. Ed here saying, I think it'll be the same team versus City, except Martinez at left centre-back and Scott McTominay to replace Casemiro. That's probably what I'm thinking, but I'm also thinking Fred in there as well. My opinion will change 10 times. Talk to me here, Vin. I saw Michael Owen trending. I'm not sure if this is in our chat or not. Thoughts on Michael Owen free kick theory? What is the free kick theory? Vin, if you don't know, email throw us in the chat, and anything else in the chat, questions before you wrap up, get all your comments in and we'll discuss them. Do you know anything about that, Vin? I'm lost.
I didn't read I didn't read about the article that was shared. But the my only thing was I kind of felt De Gea was pretty much his positioning was a bit off. He was standing really close to the farther side of the post, and of course it was a guessing game between who's going to take the free kick, whether the right footer or the left. But he could have moved a couple of steps. But again, it's easy to talk about it when you're watching on telly. It's all about those splits making decisions. But yeah, credit to the
If it
free
was
kick.
Marcus Rashford or Bruno Fernandes who put it in at the other end and we won 2-0, are we talking about the... Well, actually, I did hear this. Sully just put in small plays in the wall. Apparently it was to do with the plays that David De Gea selected to put in the wall, and it wasn't... I assume, I don't know who was in the wall, but obviously it wasn't Varane and McTominay. Look, it's one of those... God, if they were in the wall, it still looks like it's going to go in. He hit the free kick bloody brilliantly. Now, maybe it is a case, but I think that was at least to our worries. But potentially, do you see something like that?
No, the other thing, what I feel was that there is a reason. I think no one expected someone to score from there. That's the main reason Martinez and Varane wasn't in the wall. They were on outside of the wall where they were defending in case if there is a lob ball and someone scores a header. I think that's what the theory behind it. But just reading Imad's comment.
Well, you speak about theories, Vin. Here, Emad here. I've never made this thought public because I didn't want to sound like an idiot, but seeing you brought it up, I'll join you. The keeper should place the ball on the other side, forcing the taker to have a harder shot and a shorter route to the ball. Maybe not my thinking, but I've always thought, just why is it standard practice to have the wall on that side? Now, I do understand it. I play football for long enough. I do understand it. But I also think if I'm a free kick taker, sometimes when I used to take a lot of free kicks, my mind is often made up by where the wall and the keeper is. It makes it quite easy. Now, if I execute on it, that's another debate, but I know exactly where I'm going to put it and why I'm going to put it. Ultimately, if there was no wall, well, once I hit a free kick and it was only about 20, 25 yards out, but the keeper didn't put a wall. I'm not sure the situation or why that was, but he stood in the middle of the goal and there was all these bodies in front. It was a nightmare. I didn't know where to put it. And I'm thinking this is actually a bit harder because the goalkeeper's central, so he's got equal space to both goalposts. And it really threw me sort of thing. And I think sports sort of go through these evolutions and there's different theories that sort of happen and sort of styles of play and tactics. And one of the ones that has just been common throughout the history of football is the wall on the near side and the goalkeeper on the far side. And I'm thinking, well, there's professional goalkeeper coaches who are banging that drum. So obviously that is the more safer thing for the goalkeeper. But I've always thought that, Matt, in terms of, I just love it like a goalkeeper to maybe try something different and sort of see how that does impact things. Vin, I'm not sure if your screen is frozen or mine. Are you still with us? Okay, I'm not sure whether Vin is gone or if I'm gone. Vin has just dropped out. Hopefully he pops back in. But Ed here saying a free kick plays so perfectly top ends, it's hard to stop regardless. So ultimately, it comes down to that. I completely agree. Vin looks like he's back. I'll bring him back in a sec. George, I'm not going to start James Ward-Prowse to United. I'm not going to start James Ward-Prowse to United if Southampton get relegated. Sorry, Southampton. James Ward-Prowse, would he go to Man United? Yeah, look, I'll bring Vin on that. Vin, James Ward-Prowse, Manchester United player if Southampton get relegated?
4 years too late. He was my FIFA 14 or FIFA 13 first transfer from the Southampton season. I think it was who was the Southampton manager there? Poch or someone the one before Poch.
It would have been around that time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I always liked him the way he plays, and of course he scores this deciding set pieces. But yeah, 4 years late. Yeah, but again,
I think it's one of those things in terms of a lot of people say, well, what about set pieces? Bring him in for set pieces. You don't bring a player in for like 9 times out of 10, your professional footballer should be able to hit a set piece. Ultimately, really, in terms of the level these guys are playing at, our centre back should be able to hit a free kick in. Like they should be standing over free kicks. Lisandro Martinez should be able to whip a ball in. Rafael Varane, they're World Cup winners and Real Madrid and Champions League winners. They should be able to put balls into the top corner. Now, ultimately, it's saved for the attacking players. Rightly so. They're obviously going to be a little bit more skilled at it. But I'm not signing a player for a free kick or for a corner. We have technical players who can do that. Now, James Ward-Prowse is obviously a very good player. But ultimately, yes, Southampton and Manchester United. It's obviously a different kettle of fish. I remember the prime example, not to compare the players, Morgan Schneiderlin. What a player he was at Southampton. He used to tear United apart. Come to Old Trafford, it's just different. That's not to say he's not a great player. It's different. Some players are suited to different different environments. I think Morgan Schneiderlin and obviously James Ward-Prowse fall into that category. Sam, good to see. Obviously, good to see Vin on the podcast again as well, obviously. Ed Green, I would have loved James Ward-Prowse threes. Look, he might have worked at United, and obviously it definitely has a great career. I think he holds the record, Vin, for most free kicks in the Premier League.
I think he's one shot. He has equaled David Beckham, isn't he? I'm not sure if he has overtaken him, but
I'm not even sure David Beckham was there. He very well might be, but James Ward-Prowse would have to be there, I think.
I think it was 16 or 17, but I somehow I feel like James Ward-Prowse have scored more than 16 or 17 free kicks. Someone please help me out with the numbers. I believe I heard the commentator say he is close to being, breaking. Yeah,
Ian goes here. Well, one behind David. Well, hopefully he doesn't score because I'd love David Beckham to continue that record. I didn't know David Beckham had that. Obviously, one of the best free kick takers I've ever seen. But Salih's second behind Beckham, and Beckham's on 18. Look, yeah, David Beckham, in my opinion, not the best free kick taker I've seen, but my favourite free kick taker I've seen, obviously, for what he did for Manchester United. But I didn't know he was up there. So fingers crossed Ward-Prowse doesn't score another free kick and David Beckham can hold on to that. Because just on that, in the live chat, who's the best free kick taker you've ever seen, Vin? Best free kick taker you've ever seen? For me, I'm looking at, I don't think he was the best, but something that always sticks about Juninho, the Brazilian who used to play in Lyon, the way he used to be. He was the first player to get sort of that real wobble on the ball. For me, ultimately, look, Beckham probably goes in it for me. Just in terms of some occasions, he would step up and look. Ultimately, you look at sort of Lionel Messi in terms of big moments. Sometimes he can sort of get it in out of nowhere. But ultimately, for me, all things considered, would be David Beckham.
Yeah, we all tried to replicate his free kick either in a game or in front of the mirror, of course, and miserably failed. I'm talking about myself. But for me, Juninho from Lyon, yes, as Ed mentioned,
brings
he's
it
there. Up for us, yes, it's Beckham, and I do see a shout about Juan Mata by George.
Had a great record for us on free kicks.
Yeah, absolutely. But for me, even the I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's this Turkish guy Hakan.
Çalhanoğlu, something like that.
He scored some really brilliant free kicks. But currently, if I can see who's been scoring a lot many is of course James Ward-Prowse, Lionel Messi, but so. I think James Ward-Prowse has scored some really good worldies, especially the one from last week. It was magnificent.
comment from me in here. How do you take a mirror to a football match when you practice your free kicks? I love that, Ian. Chris here.
Don't tell me you guys have never stood in front of the mirror and think about okay, how you're gonna score it. Lift the collar up. You've never done that
in front of the wind. Chrissy with a shout. Ronaldo in that 07-08 season at Manchester United, a free kick outside the box was like a penalty for Ronaldo. What happened to his free kicks? I'm not sure. In terms of Ronaldo went on to achieve his greatness. His free kicks after he left Manchester United just went downhill. He's potentially the worst free kick taker. eBay brings it up here. Ronaldo's the worst free kick taker in the world, which he ended up being that. And ultimately, back 10 years ago, it was a penalty. Anything outside the box was a goal. And I'm just thinking, no idea what happened to his free kick taking ability. But it is one of those things.
Even Rooney was a good free kick taker, and somehow I know I might, but I was a bit of a fan when Owen Hargreaves was lining himself up for taking some free kicks. Especially, I think he scored a couple or three when he was.
He took that one off Ronaldo in the 08-09 season at Stretford End against Arsenal. Everyone said, "Okay, Ronaldo's going to hit this," and Owen Hargreaves is a little cheeky one over the wall.
Yeah, it was a good free kick, and I think Ronaldo scored some really good free kicks that season as well. Portsmouth and against Arsenal in the Champions League, far away, and even against Porto. I guess was it Porto or Sporting Lisbon? I think it might be.
Scored one. Sorry, my blank. Which player? Ronaldo.
Ronaldo, yeah.
Yeah, he scored a last minute free kick against Sporting Lisbon. In the 07-08 season at Old Trafford, but obviously the year after scored that bomb from about 40 yards against Porto. Obviously did have a good record against the Portuguese clubs. But just to finish on this one, Vin, because my dinner is here. Wife's knocking on the door to give me a bit of tucker. Last one. sort of notion of free kicks and David Beckham. I did see this pop up. I'm not sure where it came from, but Emad has brought it up. Tom, thoughts on Beckham being voted most overrated athlete of all time? Well, I'm telling you, he's the most underrated athlete of all time, and that's a fact. In terms of, look, he should have won the Ballon d'Or in '99. It went to Rivaldo. Could you imagine now a player winning the Premier League, being the club's player of the season, winning the Premier League, winning the Champions League, winning the FA Cup, and that player not winning the Ballon d'Or? Like, it's absolutely crazy. So it is what it is in regards to that season. He should have been a Ballon d'Or winner. He isn't. But David Beckham, and I use this, people in the chat might have heard me say this before, Vin as well. I very much sort of compare him to Conor McGregor. In regards to David Beckham, a lot of maybe I'd say casuals or people outside the game would have seen David Beckham who know nothing about the game. Yet he's the best in the world because it's David Beckham. Now, was he that? No. In that 98 season, okay, he was. But overall, he wasn't the best in the world. But ultimately, a lot of football purists, you and me, see the reaction from casuals and say, well, they're all saying David Beckham's not the best. They're saying David Beckham's the best in the world. That's not the case. So we turn on David Beckham. And that's what I thought the football industry did in terms of they didn't appreciate what he was actually doing. They just saw the outside noise. So that's not the case. So they turn on him. With Conor McGregor, a lot of the casuals look at Conor McGregor and say, yes, he's the best in the world. Well, no, he's not the best in the world. Well, definitely not now. But at the time, they're saying, yeah, Conor McGregor's the best. And a lot of the MMA, sort of hardcore MMA fans saying simply that's not the case. But ultimately, they turned on Conor McGregor because of it. And they forgot the absolute brilliance that he was. He was up there as one of the best in the world, potentially one of the greatest to do it in terms of what he did achieve. But it was taken away from him because of that outside influence. So I look at that question, was David Beckham the most overrated athlete of all time? For me, go back and look at his career. He's potentially one of the most underrated players of all time.
So it's your relative comparison with Conor McGregor was really up to the point because Conor McGregor kind of increased the amount of views towards UFC after he came in. I'm not a huge fan of UFC, but ever since Conor made me get into the game and watch it, and same goes with many people. People started watching football because of Beckham. That's one of the main reasons, because people sometimes they mistake or they mistake saying like he's the most represented athlete from football perspective, but that doesn't mean that he was, he just had the good looks and good free kick and that's it, his game is over there. He did more than that. I imagine certain games for United when he's played centre mid, he was doing a lot of running and
Champions League final.
Yeah, he has really done, but again, people normally see Beckham, and especially with the movie, he does only free kicks, penalties, and corner. He doesn't do anything else, and that's kind of sad. The passing ability that guy had brought to the team around that stage for United was ridiculous. Was ridiculous. I mean, yeah, just imagine if all these youngsters who haven't watched David Beckham play. I know I'm going to get a lot of abuse, but just put him in today's field, right?
Yeah.
Just put him. He would have smashed it.
But look, you're very right in regards to someone's strength. So his strength was obviously not his strength, but one of his huge tools was his free kicks, and that was sort of utilized and sort of promoted as his strength. But ultimately, it sort of provides a bit of a weakness. People take away from everything else. They thought that's all he has. And we go back to the Conor McGregor thing. All he has is a left hand. He's got this power left hand. And once or twice he was choked out. So it looks like he has bad jiu-jitsu. But ultimately he has very good jiu-jitsu. He's very good on the ground. He just doesn't show it. And maybe the one or two times he has been finished has been there. So people don't sort of really appreciate it. They just look at someone's strength. And ultimately the opposite of that strength has to be their biggest weakness. And sometimes that's not the case. I look at David Beckham and how long did he sort of contribute to Manchester United? Was it 95 to 2003 sort of thing? So, well, before 95, but in terms of the first consistently playing in the first team to 2003. And I'm thinking, ultimately, no one does that under Sir Alex Ferguson if you can't play football at the highest level. And he did that and consistently and was arguably one of our best players throughout that period. You look at potentially, okay, maybe say Roy Keane or Ryan Giggs are up there as well. But from that period until he left, he's arguably our best player. And that's one of our most successful, if not our most successful ever period as a club. So, yeah, long story short, Emad, thanks for bringing that David Beckham discussion up. But I could chat David Beckham all day. I don't have it in this room. I've got a signed photo. I'm very blessed to have a signed photo from him in another room. But Vin, been an absolute pleasure. Anything else before I do wrap up? Because my dinner is getting cold and my missus won't be happy. But before we wrap up, anything else tickle your fancy?
Nothing really. Just expecting a win at the Emirates and getting back onto the number 20 win parade. And Yeah, and Ian, we'll take that question offline and we'll talk about that. But yeah, thanks for having me, Tom. It's been an absolute pleasure. Now I'm gonna go and practice some David Beckham right next to the mirror. So yeah, see
Free
you.
kicks. Well, on that, on Ian's last point, was his career better with us or under? Behave yourself, Ian. I'm not going to dignify that with an answer. But we'll chat to everyone. Do appreciate everyone's opinion in the live chat. Plenty of different ones today, which is good. We'll be back tomorrow night, Friday night pint. Not sure who will jump on. If you do want to have a chat, feel free. We'll send you the link. Bit of a Friday night pint and Arsenal preview. I think we'll preview the match. Fingers crossed Larry is with us. But until then, hopefully everyone sort of got a little bit out of that, feels a little bit better after the therapy session. Remember, it was only a draw. We're still in the Premier League. We haven't been relegated. We're fine. But until then, enjoy, and we'll chat to you soon. Cheers.